Hey there, folks. The Scottsdale Travel Chick sidekick here to present our ultimate guide to Krakow, Poland. In this video, we'll cover all the top things you'll want to see and do in and around Krakow, along with details of how best to get around, where to stay, the best times to visit, dining and nightlife tips, and more, with everything called out on maps, so you'll know exactly where things are at before you get there. Okay, let's go. First up, just a bit of background on Krakow to get you started. Krakow is Poland's most popular tourist destination, the second largest city in Poland, and the original capital of Poland until 1596. Unlike much of the rest of Poland, this city was spared destruction during World War II and is often cited as one of Europe's most beautiful cities. To this point, it was declared one of the world's first UNESCO World Heritage Sites back in 1978. From a tourist perspective, Krakow can be thought of as two general areas. The Old Town area, encompassed by everything that was inside the original medieval walls, including the Old Town area, first laid out in 1257, and the impressive Wawel Castle complex, backing up to the river just to the south. The second area of touristy Krakow centers around Jewish history in the areas of Kazimierz and Pogorzelc, both just south of the Old Town. How to get there and how to get around. Krakow Airport is a short 12 kilometers or about 8 miles west of the Old Town. You can get from the airport to the Old Town in about 20 minutes by taking the Airport Express train, taxis, or Uber. But we recommend Uber as your best option. The fare should be no more than about 7 zloty or about $19 US. Once you're at your destination in town, it's pretty easy to get around by walking, certainly around the Old Town area itself. For sites outside the Old Town, Uber is still your best option, with a close second being the excellent Krakow tram system. Trams run frequently, and the fare is only about 5 zloty or about $1 US. You can easily buy tickets at kiosks at every stop or station. If you're up for it though, probably the best way to get around is by renting a bicycle. Krakow doesn't have a bike share system, but there are a couple of rental places directly in the Old Town. What about scooters? Well, they are available in Krakow, but you aren't allowed to use them in the Old Town area, so they're not really that functional compared to Uber or the trams. The best times to visit. Krakow can be considered somewhat Northern Europe, meaning the winters are cold and the days are short during that season. Summers are the opposite, with long days but quite hot and humid, with highs often exceeding 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite the heat though, this season is still the peak tourist season, so you'll have to deal with lots of tourists everywhere during this time. The actual best times to visit Krakow are the shoulder seasons of May through early June and late September into October. This time is when the weather's at its best. Where to stay. The gem of Krakow is its Old Town and Wawel area, so the ideal location for tourists is staying anywhere within or near this area. Typically shown on maps is within the Planty Park or the footprint of the old medieval walls. Problem is, hotel pricing is notably highest in this area, so be aware of that. So if you want to save a bit of money, then it's also reasonable to stay anywhere along one of the tram lines within a 10-minute ride of the Old Town area. The top things to see and do. Of course, we have to start this section off with Krakow's Old Town or Stare Miasto. Krakow's Old Town is considered one of the most photogenic spots in all of Poland, and its main square is the focal point of it all. Plus, a fun fact, this square is Europe's largest medieval square at more than 200 meters on a side. Krakow's Market Square dates back to the 13th century, or 1257 to be exact, when it was first laid out. And it's surrounded by many churches, historic buildings, restaurants, and nightlife options. At the center of the square is Cloth Hall, a 700-year-old structure that is basically a really old shopping mall. It's still in operation today, but unfortunately, with tourist-focused knick-knack shops rather than salt, amber, silk, and spices way back in the day. Nonetheless, if you want to learn more about its history, you can check out both the Cloth Hall Museum as well as the Rheineck Underground Museum, both directly in and under this building. Next door to the Cloth Hall is the Town Hall building. Well, what's left of it? Only the tower of the Town Hall remains today, but you can tour the small museum here to learn what happened to the rest of it, as well as make the climb up the very tight stairs to the top of the tower for some views over the Old Town. Next up on the square is St. Mary's Basilica, and you can't miss it. You can take a guided tour to learn about why the two towers are not the same, and also learn about the history of the trumpet player who still plays a truncated song from the top of the tower every hour, 24 hours a day. All that history aside, the best part of the church has to be the inside. You might have seen a lot of cathedrals and basilicas in Europe, just like we have, but I have to say the inside of this one is one of the best of them all. Moving out from the square, be sure to walk up and down Florianska Street, the most popular walking street in the Old Town. At the north end of this street is also what they call the Barbican and St. Florian's Gate, which are both part of medieval Krakow's fortifications and were once linked by a drawbridge across a moat. St. Florian's Gate and a bit of the walls to either side are the only remaining part of Krakow's medieval defensive system still in place. Even though most of the walls are no longer there, you can still see their presence in today's Planty Park, which is a circular walking park that surrounds the Old Town where the walls and the moat once stood guard. Beyond Florianska Street, there are plenty more quaint streets and historical buildings to explore. Take some random walks around to catch no-name courtyards, churches, and side streets that might surprise you. Here are just 3 more of those Old Town sites to keep an eye out for. Slowakia Theater is a historic 19th century performing arts center with some history worth understanding. St. Peter and Paul's Church is a Baroque church completed in 1619 with its famous 12 apostles out front. In bonus here, almost every night they have an evening concert inside the church which tourists can attend. The Professor's Courtyard at Krakow's Jagiellon University is here as well. Here you can tour the historic university and visit the courtyard of the oldest university building in Poland and one of the oldest in Europe, with a popular, though honestly not so impressive, mechanical clock ceremony which happens every 2 hours starting from 9 a.m. And fun fact, you might have heard of the university's most famous student. His name was Nicholas Copernicus. Once you're done exploring the Old Town, walk 5 minutes to the bottom of the south end of the town where you'll come to the impressive Wawel Royal Castle Complex. This complex consists of numerous buildings of historical and national importance, including the Wawel Cathedral, where Polish monarchs were crowned, and the castle, which was the residence of Polish kings for centuries. Fun fact, some of Wawel's oldest buildings can be traced back to 970 AD, while others are from the more recent Nazi occupation period. Just outside the castle walls near the river, you can also visit the Wawel Dragon. The dragon breathes fire every 5 minutes, and you can also tour the cave nearby and learn about the interesting story behind it all. That finishes up the Old Town area, and now we move south to cover 2 areas primarily related to Jewish history in Krakow. But before I get there, just a quick shout out here that if you're enjoying this video, please give us a thumbs up, maybe a comment too, or better yet, forward this to all of your friends. And please consider subscribing to our channel to receive more fun, informative travel videos just like this one. And another important point to mention, we are now offering comprehensive yet compact travel guides, which you can print out and take with you. Our Krakow guide covers everything we talk about in this video and more. Be sure to click the website link below our video if you're interested to learn more. To get to these historic Jewish areas just south of the Old Town, consider taking the waterfront path along the river. If you have a bike, this path runs for miles in either direction, with restaurants, bars, and boat excursions along the way. It's worth a lengthy bike ride, and we'll review one optional idea later in this video. Otherwise, walk the 10 minutes south along the riverfront and you'll come to the Father Bernadette pedestrian bridge. This bridge separates the 2 areas I mentioned, but it's also an attraction in itself, with 9 acrobatic sculptures suspended above the bridge which move with the wind. On the north bank of this bridge is the Kazimierz district, or the historical Jewish quarter. This area is a blend of Christian and Jewish heritage, but it was the center of Krakow's Jewish life for more than 500 years. Here you'll find the old synagogue and several other synagogues, which now serve as museums chronicling the rich history of Jews in Poland. The Rema Cemetery and its synagogue is here. This was one of the oldest Jewish cemeteries created in the 1500s, and during the Holocaust, the Nazis removed all the headstones and used them for concentration camp construction and desecrated the synagogue. Both were later rebuilt, and some of the many historic headstones have been returned. Schindler's List passage is also here. It famously provided some of the most memorable scenes in Steven Spielberg's movie. Inside, you'll find some informational storyboards to give you some history on this site, and also a couple of nice patio areas nearby for a drink or a snack. Kazimierz Market Square is also close by, and today it's the heart of the district. It's a somewhat shabby gathering place centering around what used to be a slaughterhouse. But every day, a local market is held here where residents come to buy fresh fruit and vegetables, and tourists come to buy old communist memorabilia and maybe some unique finds. Today, the old slaughterhouse in the center contains a number of food stalls, almost all selling Poland's most favorite street food, the zapiekanka, which is basically a toasted open-faced sandwich that looks like Poland's version of a flatbread pizza. The original consists of mushrooms, cheese, and ham served with ketchup, but they have dozens of other versions too. You have to try at least one while you're in Poland, right? Okay.
All right. So the sauce is, it looks like the sauce is ketchup and mayonnaise. And that's American, we didn't know that.
You're gonna like it. Yeah, you're gonna like it.
That's pretty good.
Finally, just a bit of Christian history here is the Basilica of St. Michael the Archangel. The church and the grounds are quite beautiful and worth a walk around. It's been a prominent landmark in Krakow since the 17th century, and it's one of the most revered religious sites in Poland, as it was here that the Bishop of Krakow was beheaded on the order of King Boleslaw II. Under the church is a crypt that can be toured where many great men of Poland are buried. Now, moving south across that Bernatek pedestrian bridge, you'll next come to the second area called Pogorza. This was the site of the Jewish ghetto during the Holocaust, and Pogorza is dotted with sites related to that history. One is Oskar Schindler's factory. This was the factory documented in the Spielberg movie Schindler's List. And it's now a museum related to Jews and World War II in general. Another famous site nearby is the Pharmacy Under the Eagle. This was a former pharmacy that refused to leave the ghetto despite the risk and played a crucial role in assisting Jews during the Nazi occupation. It's now another museum. Right next door to this pharmacy is the Ghetto Heroes Square. This was the main square inside the ghetto, but was also the place where families were separated and people were beaten, executed, and dragged away to death camps. It's now memorialized by a number of empty chairs where people often leave stones to memorialize the loved ones who have passed here. Around this area are also a couple of places where you can see the original ghetto walls built by Jewish forced labor and in the shape of Jewish headstones. Finally, a little bit of Christian history here is St. Joseph's Church. It's a landmark Gothic-style church built in the early 1900s and known for its imposing brick facade and bell tower. It's one of the most impressive churches in Krakow. The three areas I've just covered are the primary tourist areas in Krakow. But if you have more time to spend, here are some other great sites we'd recommend you consider during your visit. The top thing we'd recommend, and not many people do, is to visit the remains of the Plaszow concentration camp. Not many people realize there was an infamous Nazi concentration camp right in Krakow. And in fact, this camp was represented in the movie Schindler's List. There are few physical remains of the camp left, as it was purposely destroyed by the Nazis near the end of the war as the Russians were approaching Krakow. But today, there are many storyboards and a number of memorials on the site which you can visit to better understand the history of what was once here. It's a very somber experience and worth a couple of hours of your time, in our opinion. Plus, it's free. Very nearby the ruins of this camp is also Krakow Mound. This large mound of unknown origin is a popular site for scenic views of the city. It's the oldest man-made structure in Krakow, and excavations in the 1930s revealed the mound consists of a solid wooden core covered by soil and turf, but the age and its original purpose still remain a mystery. Legend has it this was the resting place of Krakow's mythical founder, King Crocus, hence its name today. Nowa Huta on the eastern edge of Krakow is a completely different experience. This area was designed and built by the Soviets to represent an ideal socialist city. One of only 2 planned socialist cities ever built, its goal was to represent the glorious communist future. It's an interesting half-day visit, and various organized tours will take you there. Check out our link below this video for our recommended provider. Finally, there are 2 very popular day trip options many tourists do during their trip to Krakow. Taking a day trip to the Nazi extermination camp of Auschwitz is a big one, and a terribly painful one to fully comprehend. The site offers glimpses of the autocracies committed during World War II. At least 1.3 million people were sent to Auschwitz between 1940 and 1945, and at least 1.1 million of those died there. Of all the Jews killed during the Holocaust, 1 in 6 died at Auschwitz. It's quite a sad trip to take, but one worthwhile to keep the memories of Nazi autocracies alive. See our recommendation on the best tour provider for this trip below our video. The next most popular day trip from Krakow is not nearly as depressing. The Wieliczka Salt Mine Tour. It's an easy 25-minute train ride on your own, or you can take an organized tour. And see again our recommendation for that below the video. The Wieliczka salt mine extracted salt starting from the 13th century all the way up until 1996. It was one of the world's oldest salt mines, operating continuously for more than 700 years. The mine has a total of 11 levels, reaching a depth of more than 1,000 feet or 300 meters. And total passages and chambers exceed more than 170 miles in length. Today, the mine tour here features a 2-mile underground walking route with an underground lake, huge chambers, exhibits on the history of salt mining, and many impressive salt carvings. Our last section here is just a bit on dying and nightlife in Krakow. Usually we give you a few examples of each here, but for Krakow, everything is pretty compact and intermixed. There are 2 main areas where you can find good nightlife as well as dining. One is the Old Town area, and the other is the Kazimierz area. Old Town, of course, is the most touristy part of Krakow, but it's where you'll find the majority of Krakow's nightclubs, as well as English and Irish pubs, sports bars, and shop bars. Not to mention, you can find some decent Polish restaurants as long as you get a few blocks away from the main square. Kazimierz is about a 15-minute walk from the Old Town to the south, and it's geared more towards cocktail bars and a more laid-back night out. It's still fairly touristy, but you'll find far fewer tourists and more locals here than in the Old Town area. Well, there you have it, folks, our ultimate visitor guide to Krakow, Poland. We hope you enjoyed. Did we miss any of your favorites, or do you have a secret tip you'd like to share with others? Please let us know in the comments section below, and please consider subscribing to our channel for more fun, informative travel videos just like this one. Until next time, see you later.